Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about a different kind of topic in today's video. Unfortunately, My Hero Academia is on break this week, but luckily enough, it's going to be back weirdly enough on Friday of this week, so look forward to that review as well as spoilers for that. But in this video, I'm still going to do a manga review, but it's going to be on a different manga this time. I will not be doing a review on the One Piece chapter this week, which, let me just say, is I wish I was, but unfortunately I'm not. And to give you a little hint on what chapter I'm going to be reviewing and what manga, here's the hint right now. Yeah, it's a science-themed one. So if that wasn't a really big hint, I'm actually going to do a manga review of this chapter of Dr.Stone Manga chapter 155, titled Science is Elegant. So yeah, I'm going to be doing the review of this week for Dr.Stone. The reasoning behind it, there's no reason whatsoever, especially not a certain character being revealed. Nothing to that extent, nothing at all. But with that little trivial thing out the way, let's get started. So we actually start off this chapter of Dr. Stone with kind of like the reveal for why Dr. Zenon specifically chose Stanley and his crew to use a sniper rifle against the kingdom of science. And he gives his explanation of it's like, oh, he's basically like, yeah, basically sniper rifles are like just the most effective way of like getting rid of their nuisance with the very least amount of bloodshed as possible. And what is interesting about this, and it kind of ties into what we learned at the end of this chapter, is that this ideal is very similar to how Senku views these wars of science against whatever he's going up against. He doesn't view it as a way of like using science as a way to like automatically like hurt people, like kill everyone, like and like one big like fell swoop. But he kind of uses science to like make sure like he's able to get like a definitive victory without necessarily causing a whole lot of bloodshed. And the major difference between like from these ideals of like being like the most effective and like the least amount of casualties is that with Senku, he tries to have no casualties whatsoever and make sure that everyone comes out of the situation alive, both enemy and ally. But for Dr. Zenon, it's more of like, oh, maybe one or two casualties is fine as long as like there's not like a whole lot of death. So it shows like a distinct difference between how Senku views like war and how he views his victory, in contrast to how Dr. Zenon feels it, where like Dr. Zenon can have death occur and he can consider it a victory, while in Senku's case, if like someone were to die, he could see it as like a total failure. So we kind of get a little bit of elaboration on like what Dr. Zenon thinks about war and like get a little bit more insight on the type of person that he is. And with that, we also get a better understanding of like what the three characters we were introduced in the previous chapter, what they are going to be doing with the sniper rifle. You have Stanley, who is the guy who's like very like great at like marksmanship. He's the one who's going to be shooting it, but then you have the two guys who are going to be named, who are Max and Carlos. And something else that I actually want to make reference to before we get more into the chapter is like how the mangaka of this chapter is doing like a whole lot of understanding of like not just the topic of science, but as well as like the different cultures of the world, because you have Stanley as a name, you have Max and Carlos, and because they're in America, they have more American names, while when we were in like Japan and the islands, they have more like Japanese, traditionally Asian names. So that's something interesting that I found. And even when it came to like the character Francisco's, which has like sort of like a French vibe from him, he has a similar French-like name. So that's something that I've noticed in this chapter, and I find that very interesting. But we kind of get more understanding of like why specifically Max and Carlos was there and why they were carrying all that water. And we get the explanation that, yeah, they were carrying all that water because they don't know how long they're going to be up in the tree, like how long it's going to take to basically shoot down and kill the science leader for the Kingdom of Science. So basically, they have all of this water just in case they may spend thousands of hours in the tree. In between like food and water is the most important thing that you need for your body. So having a whole lot of water would be very effective in long periods of time where you have to wait to kill the enemy. And while we learn that, we also cut over to the side of the Kingdom of Science, where we spend a lot of the chapter where we see Minami talking to the radio, and she's basically saying, it's like, oh, we're just here to resurrect all of humanity, that's all we really need to do. And she's saying that into the radio, and then you have Genryo, who comes in being, Genryo being like very like shy and being like very scared. Is like, what are you doing? They may not be able to hear you. And Mina's like, well, yeah, that is true, but the reason why, at least we're like telling them like our intentions, so like they know that we don't mean any harm to it. She explains that to Genryo, and then she also explains, but it's also best to have that out the way, because on our side they know what we are looking for, but we have no idea what Dr. Zenon is after, what he is looking forward to. And we as the audience, we kind of have an idea on what he wants and what he is looking for, but like in reality, we actually don't. And with that, we cut over to like the cover page where we see that science is elegant, where we see Dr. Zenon just basically on the cover itself. So we get Ryusui and Senku and how they're questioning on whether or not Luna is a spy. And we also get another full body shot of Luna, and I'm gonna be honest, she's the reason why I'm doing this video. She is the reason why I am deciding to review Dr. Stone, because look at this. She has childbearing hips. And I can say that I am a guy that is attracted to boobs. Those are childbearing hips. You cannot question the beauty of those hips. But with that little tangent out the way, they're questioning on whether or not that they should trust her, and they come to the conclusion, oh yeah, no, she's definitely a spy. But even though she's a spy, we're gonna milk her for all the information that we can get on the Dr. Zenon. And from there, we kind of get the reveal of like what Luna and her mission is, and like what her specialty is. Because when it comes to Dr. Stone, pretty much everyone has like that sort of like specialty. How Senku is the scientist, and how Taiji is like the endurance. Like they all have like something that they are good at, and we get like what her purpose is. And we get the reveal of her specialty as well as her mission, which is to look for Taiju, who she is assuming is the scientist, because that is what Ging told them, even though he was lying, that she's going to look for Taiju, identify him, lure him to the deck so that he can be shot by Stanley. And we also get the reveal of her specialty, which is sort of being the femme fatale, which makes sense because she's very attractive, and I would like to say she plays like a similar like attractiveness role as Amaryllis, where she's very attractive, but I would say she's more of the femme fatale because her purpose is to distract Taiju and eventually lead to his death, which is basically the premise of a femme fatale. But she also says that she is also like a smooth operator as well as a profiler, which is probably the most like apt sense, because her job is basically to identify who the scientist would be, and she kind of gives like a rough estimate of like what this scientist would be. She gets like the idea of that she has to be like he has to be someone young, where we get the reveal that she's like around the same age as pretty much everyone in like the Kingdom of Science. And she also says that he has to be very intelligent because he was able to like get these kids up to like a point of like being very scientifically advanced, as well as he must have like the conviction to do so. And something else that she comes to the realization of why she's the best fit for this role is because like what she describes as like the leader of the Kingdom of Science for the children just so happens to be her type. And I'm not saying that I'm not intelligent, but I do have a bachelor's degree, so maybe she's looking for someone like me. But no, most likely she's looking for Senku, and we get a lot of like hints in this chapter that she's attracted to Senku, but she doesn't know why, because she's assuming that the person that she's looking for, the person that she'll be attracted to, is Taiju. So it's just like a few funny moments there. Once Luna comes to the realization that this is the type of person that she's looking for, she just begins to look for Taiju, and she begins to question like where he could be, because she notices that there's like a whole lot of people on this boat, and that it's gonna be very hard to find Taiju. Spoiler, she finds him automatically, like easily. Like she literally goes to like maybe 2 people. She passes by Magma and Yo. She's like, no, you're not my type. Also, you're obviously not the scientist. Where she begins to think, like, okay, man, I have to find him. But there's no way that he'll just immediately reveal himself. And then all of a sudden you have Yuzuhara, who calls out for Taiju, and Taiju just automatically responds like, oh, I'm here. And you obviously get like the shocked face of Luna, and how she's like, there's no way that it's this easy. And she's like, okay. She begins to think again. She's like, okay, I found him. Now I have to think of a way to lure him on deck. And she gets shocked again because Taiju automatically, while carrying like a log, goes onto deck where he would be shot when she gets close to him, and she's just shocked again. And something else that I wanted to bring up is this. During the entire time that Luna is like looking through the ship, you just see Kurosame just right behind her the entire time, just looking at her, just like, I don't trust you. And she's just following her the entire time, just with this look of, So yeah, that's just something that I really found hilarious. But from there, Luna finds Senku one more time, and this time Senku is just really putting her on the charms. He just look at her, he's like, hey, you're Luna, right? Let me introduce myself. I'm Senku. And everyone is thinking like, alright, this is going to be a moment that Senku begins to like be cunning, and like begins to like sort of like sprinkle in like ways to get information out of her. And no, Senku just automatically bursts out like, so what are the plans of Dr. Zeon? And everyone is just like, oh my gosh, Senku, come on. You can't be like, Senku was just blunt with it. He's just basically like, so, tell us about your boss. What Senku just did would be like a spy entering a government facility and asking like the person in charge, what are all of the secrets of your base? You could tell me, right? Sure, I'm a spy, but just tell me. That's the equivalent of what Senku is doing. You have friend Kois and Ryusui basically coming to Senku and convincing him, it's like, hey, you can't just be blunt with it. You have to be a little bit sneakier. You have to like welcome them into the party, welcome them into the group. And they come up with a way of doing it, and they come up with it by using, ta-da! Vanilla ice cream. So yes, their plan is to basically use vanilla ice cream to make her more comfortable so that they can start interrogating Luna. And I'll say this, another reason why I really do enjoy Dr. Stone is the fact of like how realistic a lot of the experimentation is in the series. And as I said, as someone who has studied in the sciences, I have a good understanding of like how a lot of this stuff works, and just seeing like how accurate it is and like the correct terminology used in this manga is like very amazing and something that I really enjoy. So we kind of go into like how they decide to like make the ice cream, and they kind of go into the explanation of like how ice cream is like made, not really in depth, but they kind of give like an overview over it. Like you need like cream, like sugar, you need like milk. They use kudzu powder, which is a substitute for gelatin, gelatin, which allows like the ice cream to have like the consistency of ice cream. And the problem is like they have all of this, but they need vanilla extract, and they explain that vanilla isn't grown in the US, so they have to like artificially make it. And this is where more of the science of Dr. Stone comes in, because they go through very similar scientific processes that you would see in a lab. Senku uses a test tube and copper wire and iron and basically makes ozone, which is O3, and then eventually he combines that O3 with another compound that he makes, which is like the combination of bay-laurel extract and sodium hydroxide. And with these combination of chemicals, he makes artificial vanilla. And this is something that he talks about a little bit later, but I found it interesting, and it relates to what I want to do later on in life when it comes to these different processes and how they're used in the story. So basically, he makes the like artificial vanilla extract. He makes the ice cream with the help of taiju, and they even explain like how like you're able to like make this ice cream, because you have to realize that they're not in the modern era. They do have refrigeration, but they do not have like the technology to keep like the ice cream like refrigerated like for long distances of time. So what they use is they while they're mixing all the ingredients together, they have ice and they top it off with salt. And the reason why they do that is because with salt, it lowers the freezing / melting point of ice, which basically means that the ice will not melt as fast in the water, which means that it will stay colder longer, which will make the ice cream colder, so that it can like have like the ability to freeze and basically make ice cream. And with that, Luna is like looking at this and is like questioning all this, like what are you doing? Oh man, I have to get close to Taiju. And we get probably my favorite part of this chapter, where we get to see Luna with my best girl Nikki, and how she just confronts her. It's like, where do you think you're going? Just stay put. And she's just intimidated. And I realize that there's a reason why I both like Nikki and Luna, and it's just that Luna has a fat ass and Nikki just has a big bust. So that interaction was great, but we also get the final product of the ice cream. And if you remember correctly, that the same way that they are like taking Luna to be incorporated into the group, and everyone is enjoying this ice cream as well, even Luna herself. And her exact mate is Senku, but she's so tied up in the lie that Game told them about the scientist being Taiju that she is unable to put the two and two together, which kind of will imply that she will eventually like put the two and two together, and that she will most likely than not change sides to Senku, because Senku would be like the person that she would like and is her type of man. And Luna is then flabbergasted by the fact that they were able to create this artificial vanilla extract, and she questions Senku like how he was able to do this, where Senku probably puts it like the best way possible from the view of a scientist in like this field, which can basically be summed up as such. There's always a way to get around any like missing ingredients that you are missing in the field of science. We use the elements that the world has provided us to create things that have no business being created. That is the essence of organic chemistry, and that rings so true, because I've learned of many different things that we have created through organic chemistry. Primarily something that we all know is plastic. Plastic isn't something that just appears in this world. Plastic is something that is man-made, and the fact that we're able to use all of these elements and combine them in a certain way to create something that like isn't natural is kind of like the premise of organic chemistry. Like organic chemistry, the uses of carbons and chemistry to create these things that like better our lives. That's kind of the basis of organic chemistry, and that's something that I can wholeheartedly agree with, and that's really why I enjoyed that speech from Senku. And from that moment, we have Luna, who heart skips a beat once again, because she's falling more and more for Senku. And even though Senku is her type, she assumes that who the scientist that she is looking for is Taiju, because of what Gin says. So she basically is like, no, I have to like stay on target. But then she kind of lets like a piece of evidence slips that basically gives the reveal of who Dr. Xeon is, where she basically says like, yes, this ice cream is very good, and if I can just quote Dr. Xeon with his favorite word, it is elegant. And for some reason, like, even with that one word, like, I still feel as if, like, this is something that I want to say. When she says the word elegant about the doctor, Senku just, like, looks over and is like, what? What did you just say? Elegant? And then he basically goes to, like, this large, like, leap in logic, where it's like, that's something that, like, I remember that word. Is the doctor a former NASA like scientist, or did he formerly work for NASA? And Luna's like, how did you know? And then because of that one piece of information, Senku like figures out who Dr. Xeon is. He comes to the realization like, oh, I remember him when I was creating rockets. Like before all of this happened, he was my mentor. Bum bum bum. So yeah, we get the reveal that apparently Dr. Xeon and Senku know each other, which kind of like makes sense. Like relatively speaking, like within the sense of the story, it makes sense that Senku would obviously know this doctor, and tying into what I said at the beginning of the chapter, how they have similar ideals. Like yeah, that was what this was kind of leading to, the fact that like they would be like the most effective way of doing something with the least amount of bloodshed. But this also shows the difference between them, as like, and it also shows like why they have these similarities, because Senku worked under Xeon. That's why they have this same like thought mentality. But Senku takes it a little bit further, saying like he doesn't want any bloodshed whatsoever. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the chapter. I really do enjoy like just looking more into Dr. Stone and like how it relates to science, because I really do enjoy science, something that I basically like majored in college. So just having like reading the story and like looking at like how like accurate a lot of these scientific terminology and like the scientific process seen in this manga are very interesting, in comparison to like how it can be spread to like a wider audience that may not be able to understand it like on a base level if another mangaka or another writer was writing this. Especially the fact that they do like give like a little bit of like, oh yeah, this is fact checked by X, shows that they are really like taking their time to like really understand the science of it. And it's someone who is kind of qualified in like this field of organic chemistry. I can confirm that the information that they are providing is very accurate, and hopefully if they are doing something that doesn't seem as accurate, I could potentially point it out and like even praise them more for their more scientific accuracies. So yeah, all in all, I thought this was a really good chapter. Really, any chapter that just shows Luna and her abnormally large hips is going to be a good chapter in my opinion, as well as the fact that we got to see more interactions between her as well as the other members of the Kingdom of Science, and showing how most likely than not she's going to join sides with the Kingdom of Science. And I really want to see like how this is going to affect specifically Taiju, and whether or not he's going to be shot, because I do not think that he's going to be killed, but I think that there may be a point where like he will get shot, where Stanley's position will be revealed, and then you will have eventually the people of the Kingdom Science will potentially take him as a hostage, I believe, and if not, he may be able to escape, but then Taiju will be killed, and that could lead back to Dr. Xeon saying like, yeah, I took the shot, he's not dead, but he's gravely injured. Then, so yeah, their scientists will be down for a while, so we're good to go, which will give the Kingdom of Science the advantage that they may need to go against this other kingdom. So yeah, like I said, all in all, really good chapter. I really did enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and hopefully I can make more reviews like this in the future. So hopefully you enjoy this review of Dr. Stone. I really did enjoy recording it, talking about it to you guys. Leave a like on this video, comment below, subscribe, do all of that cool jazz, and I'll be able to catch you in the next video. Goodbye for now. Woo!